Hello, good morning students, good morning everyone. Today in this video we will talk about the summary of the first chapter of our book. Yes, the Shoemaker. The Shoemaker is our first chapter and in this video we'll actually talk about the summary of the Shoemaker, this chapter. Fine. So this story, the Shoemaker, it has been taken from a novel by Charles Dickens. The name of the novel is The Tale of Two Cities. The Tale of Two Cities, written by Charles Dickens, and this is a small extract, a very small extract from the very beginning, the first chapter I would say of that novel. And let's first talk about Charles Dickens himself. Charles Dickens, one of the greatest writers, one of the greatest authors of English language. He was born in 1812 and died in 1870. So he is from 19th century, we can say 19th century. And Charles Dickens was one of the greatest writers we had in English language. Some of the people consider him as the greatest author of 19th century. He was so great. His stories, his novels, those are still read widely. People love his work so much. His novels are very popular. Charles Dickens is a very popular name, and his novels and his short stories, they are all very popular. Talking about Charles Dickens, his childhood was not very rich and prosperous. He lost his father. Actually, I'm sorry, he did not lose his father. His father was imprisoned. Yeah, his father was imprisoned when he was 12 years old. When Charles Dickens was 12 years old, his father was imprisoned. Imprisoned means jailed. Imprisoned means jailed. Imprisoned. He was put behind the bars. He was jailed. When Charles Dickens was 12 years old. Let me write the name of the chapter. This is what chapter 1, the Shoemaker. The Shoemaker. The Shoemaker. So Charles Dickens, his father was imprisoned, and because of that he had to work. He had to work at a very young age. He started working at a very young age for a living. But he had this art. He was like a great. He had this hidden art in himself, and he started writing later on. Much later, he started writing, and he became one of the most popular writers of English language. Charles Dickens led a life of poverty himself, and because of that he had a great understanding about the problems which poor people face. And because of that, in his writings we see that in most of his novels, the lead character, the main character is a poor person or a person who is struggling in life. So if we talk about some of his famous works, David Copperfield, A Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist. Who does not know about Oliver Twist? Oliver Twist is such a great character. So this is the beauty of Charles Dickens. He has created some of the most famous characters, like fictional characters of English literature. So whenever you hear this name, Oliver Twist, you are reminded of that poor boy from Charles Dickens novel. So many of his characters, many of his characters have become so famous now. Everyone knows about them. So this is his beauty, Charles Dickens' beauty. He has given birth to some of the greatest fictional characters of English literature. So Charles Dickens, he has written short stories and he has written novels, and his work is still famous. This novel, A Tale of Two Cities, it is based on the backdrop of the French Revolution. The French Revolution, you will read about French Revolution in your next class. French Revolution is a part of your syllabus in 9th standard history. French Revolution, if we try to put a date to it, it would be 1789. There was an incident which happened in 1789, because of which it is considered that French Revolution started in 1789. But revolutions are something which cannot be given a date. It's not like a cricket match that it will be played on so and so date. this revolution has got a big history. There were conditions in France which were like very much against the common people, the rich people, the elite people. They were leading a very prosperous and rich life, and the poor people were like leading a very difficult and very insufficient life, very needy life. And like there were so many factors which finally led to the people, the common people, the peasants means farmers. It led like everyone to revolt against the king, against the system. Revolt, what is revolt? Revolt is when you like go against the system or the government. Revolution word has been taken from revolt. So revolt is rebel like normally in a revolution you will see people coming outside on the streets and shouting slogans, carrying placards and wanting to change the system. That is a revolution. So people revolted and finally like the system in France was changed. It was a long process. This revolution continued for around 5 years, 10 years or 15 years. So like different people consider this revolution to last for like from 5 to 15 years, because there are so many incidents which have been which took place in France. So we will not go into a detailed history about the French Revolution. Our story which is the Shoemaker, it is taken from this novel, A Tale of Two Cities. A Tale of Two Cities. Which are these two cities? Paris in France and London in England. These are the two cities. The story, the novel is based on these two cities. Our story, The Shoemaker, is a very small story. It's a very small story, but it is a very interesting story. It has got so many emotions. So we'll understand the story, we'll summarize the story, we'll get to know about some interesting characters and their situation. It's a very interesting and enthralling, fascinating story. We'll go through it, students. So French Revolution, okay. The Shoemaker. Let's come to our story. The Shoemaker. So we have this person named Mr. Manet. We have this person named Mr. Manet, who was a doctor. And he got to know some secrets of some officers. And these officers were afraid that these secrets will be made public, and these officers will pay the price. So to ensure that they are not caught and they are not in any sort of trouble, they will make a false case against Mr. Manet. Mr. Manet, who is the lead character of our story. Mr. Manet. Mr. Manet is the lead character of our story. He was a physician. Physician means a doctor. Physician is a doctor. Don't get confused with physicist. Physicist is a person who studies physics, and physician is a doctor. There are some other similar words like psychiatrist or psychologist. So these are different terms. Now the psychiatrist and psychologist, they have to do something with your psych, with your psychology. These are also doctors. Physician is a normal doctor. So every doctor you visit, he could be a surgeon who is specialized in surgery, or a specialist of one particular field like ENT, ear, nose and throat, or gastric. So there are some special doctors who specialize in certain field, but physicians are normal doctors who can see you, who can diagnose you, who can give you medicines, recommend medicines to you. Physician, doctor. So Mr. Manet was a physician. He was a good person. He was a kind person. He was a successful doctor. He was leading a very nice and normal life, though France was not going through a similar situation. So coming back to our story, Mr. Manet will discover some secrets, and he is framed into a false case, and he is imprisoned. He is imprisoned for a long period of time. He spends 18 years in a jail, in a prison. He spends 18 years in a prison, and when he is in prison, he changes. The time in the prison changes him completely. He was a successful doctor. Now when he will come out from the prison, he will be a old man, and not only old man, he will be a very slow man. He will be like he will take so much time to respond. He will find it so difficult to like mix with the people again. He has become forgetful. He has become forgetful. So I'll talk about his character a bit in detail. Let me backtrack. So after spending 18 years in jail, he is released, and he had a servant. He had a servant named Mr. Defarge. Mr. Defarge is his servant. Okay, Mr. Defarge is his servant, and in this story we will get to hear this one word. We will get to read one word, which is Monsieur. M-O-N-S-I-E-U-R, Monsieur. Now what is this Monsieur? Monsieur is a word which is used in France. It is like a word which is used like Mr. or Sir, or in Hindi we say Sriman, something like that. It is like a word to show respect to other men. It's only used with men, not with females. So Monsieur means Sir or Mr. or Shriman, like a French word which shows respect. So when you have to address someone, like say Mr. Pandey, so instead of saying Mr. Pandey, you can say Monsieur Pandey. Monsieur Pandey, it's a French word, Monsieur, a way of addressing and respecting other men, only men, not females. So Monsieur Defarge or Mr. Defarge. Next character will be Mr. Lorry. Mr. Lorry is the next character. Mr. Lorry. Who is Mr. Lorry? Mr. Lorry or Monsieur Lorry? He is a banker. He is a banker. He was a good friend of Mr. Manet, like before he was jailed, and he's a banker and he's a good friend of Mr. Manet. And the last character of our story would be Mr. Manet's daughter, and her name is Lucy. Her name is Lucy. So this story has these four characters. Mr. Manet, the lead character of our story. Mr. Defarge, his servant when he was not imprisoned, when he was a doctor, and Mr. Lorry, a banker and his friend, and Lucy, his daughter, Mr. Manet's daughter. Now 18 years have passed. Mr. Manet is out from jail, and he has been brought by Defarge to this building, which is not a very rich or posh building. It is a like small building, and on the top floor, on the garret, Mr. Manet has been put. So garret, what is garret? Garret is attic. Garret is attic. And in Hindi we call it atari. Atari is a word like in old times when we used to have these kacha makans, kacha ghar. We used to have this small place near the roof, which was used to like store things, atari. So we'll have staircase, and we'll go up, and we will keep our boxes and other stuff. So the height of this space was like not too much. It was quite little. You had to like bend and walk, because otherwise you will touch the roof. So I have got a big room, like heighted room, and on the top near the roof I have made some space. I have got one more roof to make a space. This is like attic in English, or garret. Garret in Hindi we used to call it atari as well. It can also be used, these words garret or attic can also be used for the top floor room. Like if you have got a 2-story or 3-story building, the topmost floor, if you have got a room on the top floor, you can use the word garret or attic, but mostly it was used for this small like area, a small area which was like a small space which was on near the roof, and you can store things, or you can work there, right? So Defarge has put Mr. Manet in the garret of this building, of this house, and he is like sits there and he works. And what does he do? He makes shoes. And that is why the name this shoemaker. Now shoemaker, how did he become a shoemaker? Why does he make shoes, right? So when he was in prison, he was very lonely. He had nothing to do. Now just imagine if you have to like be in a like prison or a jail or a room, from where you cannot go out. You have to sit there alone. You don't have anything to read. You don't have your phone. You have to just sit there, keep thinking whatever you want to think, and keep sitting. You will get your food 2 times or 3 times in a day, and that's it. The whole day, 24 hours, you are free. and what will you do? You will be so bored, right? So the same thing happened with Mr. Manet, and Mr. Manet thought that he will learn some art, and he applied to the jailer for a leave. He wanted a leave to go out and learn the art of shoemaking, so that when he is back in the prison, he can spend his time making shoes, and that way he will be able to kill his boredom a little bit. So Mr. Manet, who was in a jail, he applied for leave so that he can go out and learn the art of making shoes, right? And he had to give so many applications, and finally his leave was granted, and he got a leave and he learned the art of shoemaking, and he started making shoes while in jail, and that is how he became the shoemaker. And even after he has come out, he can not sit idle. He has to keep doing something, and so Defarge has arranged for Mr. Manet to keep making shoes. So in the garret there is a bench. Mr. Manet will sit there and he will keep making shoes the whole day long, and that is how his name has now become the Shoemaker. The name of the story is Shoemaker, right? So Mr. Manet, when he was in prison, he has become very slow, and he responds very slowly, he reacts very slowly, he appears so weak. So let's begin the story. I mean, the story has already begun, but with the events. So Mr. Manet is sitting in his room making shoes. Defarge will enter the room in the garret. Defarge will enter. He will open the door slightly and come inside. He has come with two other visitors, and who are they? They are Mr. Laurie and Lucy, right? And Mr. Laurie and Lucy will stand near the door, and only Mr. Defarge will enter the door, and he will come forward. He will stand for a minute or two, and then he will start talking to Mr. Manet. He will ask him, how are you doing, and he will actually also say that let me bring some more light in this room, because this room is so poorly lit. There was very little light, very dim light in the room. So he opens the door a little bit so that some extra light comes into the room. But Mr. Manet was not very habitual of too much light. In the prison, he used to get so little light. It was a poorly lit room. So when Defarge opens the door, Mr. Manet will put his hand like this, in front of his face, and when he does that, Defarge is able to see that he's so bony, his bones are visible, and he's so weak. But anyhow, Mr. Manet will not mind, will not complain. He will adjust. The door has been opened a bit. The light is coming in the room, and Mr. Manet will start. Defarge will start talking to him. He will ask him simple questions like, "What are you doing?" and I can see that you are a great worker. Things like this. And talking about Mr. Manet's appearance, because in your story there is one paragraph describing his appearance. He is like a old person with white beard and white hair, and he's looking very weak. And when he speaks so slowly. His voice is so low that you can hardly hear him. And the reason for his weakness is not that he was not getting to eat or he was sick. The reason for his weakness is his loneliness. He was so alone in the prison. So his solitude is a word that we will use in this chapter. Solitude is loneliness, solitude. Okay. So his solitude, his loneliness, and solitude, and his disuse. He was not used. He did not have any work. He did not have any work in the prison, and because of all that, he has become so weak, and he speaks so in such a low voice that you can hardly hear him. His clothes are also tattered, and they have become pale. What is pale? Pale is when the colors fade. Fika, pale. So his color, his shirt, his jacket, his frock or skirt. He is wearing something on his waist, and that has been referred to as a frock or a what do you say it, a skirt in the chapter. in Europe, in many places, these people like used to wear a thing which was not really a pants, because there were no two separate legs, so you can consider it as a skirt or a frock. So all his clothes have become so pale, like their colors have become so similar that you can't distinguish which one is which is shirt, which is coat, which is skirt. So in such poor condition he is sitting there. Now Mr. Lorry will move ahead, he will move forward, he will come and stand near Defarge, and Mr. Manet will not notice him. He is so slow, so Lorry will keep standing there for a minute or two. Mr. Manet has this weird habit. When you will talk to him, he will not directly look at you. He will first look on both his sides, like he will look at the ground on both his sides, like this. When you say, for example, I say, Mr. Manet, he will be like, very slowly he will move to one of his sides and look at the ground, and then he will move very slowly to the other side, look at the ground, as if he can't can't relate to the place from where the sound is coming, and then he will gradually look ahead and look at you, and he is very slow, his movements are so slow. So Lorry will come ahead and he will start talking to him, Defarge will ask him to show him the shoes that he is making. He will ask Mr. Manet to tell him what kind of shoe it is, you please explain what kind of shoe you are making, and please tell this gentleman your name. So he is trying to kind of make Manet talk, because Manet talks very little, right? So he will give the shoes, and after prompting a lot, he will say that this is a lady's shoes, girls wear it when they are walking. And when they will ask him for his name, number of times, he will say, my name is 105 North Tower. 105 North Tower. They will ask him 2 times, 3 times, and he will again and again say, my name is 105 North Tower. And what is that? I am sure you can assume why he is saying a number. This was his prisoner number in the jail. This was his prisoner number in the jail, and North Tower is the building in which he was confined. He was jailed. Confined, bachcho, imprisoned, confined, jailed, one and the same thing. Fine. So Mr. Lorry will say, Mr. Manet, don't you remember me? And Mr. Manet will drop the shoe which he was holding in his hand, because he was hearing his name after so long, after almost 18 years he was hearing his name. Because in the jail everyone would refer to him as 105, 105, 105, right? So he was shocked, and he will drop his shoes, and Mr. Lorry will try to talk to him. He will try to remind him of his past. He will ask him, don't you recognize me? Don't you remember your old friend, the banker? Don't you recognize this guy, Defarge, your servant? Don't you remember the old times, the old business that we used to do? Don't you remember anything? He keeps talking. He tries to remind Mr. Manet about the past, but Mr. Manet is looking blank at Mr. Lorry. For a moment he did recognize Mr. Lorry, but then again he will be lost. He has this habit that he is a very forgetful person. He forgets everything. Like he is talking, and in the middle of the sentence he will forget to talk. Such has become his personality. He has become very slow and very forgetful, right? So no use, all the prompt, Mr. Lorry prompted him so much, but then that was all waste. He is not able to recall anything. And while Mr. Lorry is talking, Lucy will come forward. Lucy will come forward, and Lucy will enter the room, and she will move along the wall. So for example, if there is a door there, and she enters, and she is sticking to the wall, she is walking close to the wall. Okay, she is sliding, she is walking, moving along with the wall, and she will go around and come and stand near Mr. Manet. Mr. Manet won't notice her first, but he is very slow, and after so many minutes, when he is about to change his tools, he is working on a shoe. He had some instrument, some tool in his hand, and he needed the shoemaker's knife. He needed the shoemaker's knife, and he will raise his eyes from his shoe, and he will look towards the tool, towards the knife. And Lucy was standing on the other side. So he will pick up that knife, and when he is about to go to his work, he will notice Lucy's skirt, and he will look at her, and he is like surprised to see a girl standing so close to him. He does not like know her, and at this moment, because he is holding a knife in his hand, Mr. Lorry and Defarge will be like very frightened. They will like charge at him. They will like start moving towards Mr. Manet, because they are afraid that he might hurt Lucy. He has got a knife, and what if he out of fear, out of shock, he hits Lucy, right? So they will move ahead, but Lucy will like show them her hand, and she will like stop them from coming ahead, because she does not care. She is meeting her father after so many years. She wants to be with him. She wants she does not care if he hurts her. She understands he is not in the right mental condition. He does not recognize her. So if he harms her, she does not care about it. She just wants to be with him. She wants to like spend time with him. She will keep standing there for some time. He will keep staring at her. Slowly she will sit down on the bench, and he is like again shocked. He will recoil. What is this recoil? Recoil is when you move back. Like in with guns we use this word recoiling. You study about it in physics as well. So when you move back, right? So he will recoil, he will retract, but Lucy will sit down, and everything is happening so slowly. She will like touch his arm, and he is still surprised. He asks her, are you the chief jailer's daughter? Because the only girl that he saw in his time in the prison was the chief jailer's daughter, and she will be like, no. She will say only no, and she's crying a lot, and she is so happy to see his father after so many years. She was a very little girl when her father was taken away. She was in his arms, and the police came, and they took him away, and well, it is not mentioned if she remembers all of that, but because she was so small, so young then, but she is so happy to meet her dad after so many years. So she keeps crying, and she touches his arm. She wants to like hug him. She wants to take care of him. She wants to like make it up for all the time that she has lost, that she has not been able to spend with his father. And Mr. Manet is looking at her. He is staring at her, and and she feels that maybe he will like guess who she is. But after like some time, after a few moments, he forgets everything, and he starts working on his shoes. And our story ends here. In our book, the chapter ends here. But in the novel, in this chapter, after a few minutes, he will again like look at her, and finally they will meet. This chapter has a happy ending. This chapter has a happy ending in the novel. They will meet, and he will be like reminded that he is his daughter, and they will meet happily. But in our book, the chapter ends where he starts working on his shoes. So this was a summary. I have gone through the summary in very detail, so that you understand the story, the chapter. So students, you can go through the chapter yourself now. You can read it yourself now. There are a few tough words which I have discussed here, and there are a few tough words which you will come across in the chapter, and the meaning of those words are given in given on each page at the bottom, and they are also in in your notebook that you will be completing. So students, this was it, a summary of the Shoemaker. Very interesting chapter, right? So this was it for today. See you.